Hello everyone. In this tutorial today, we are going to talk about three key things that every animator must do before starting animation in Unreal Engine. The very first one is setting up an image plane. Secondly, we are going to constrain an object to a character. The third one is a workspace, a mode, and the arrangement of the windows for an efficient animation. I'll explain you why it's needed and how it increases your productivity and creativity. So using this three method, pre-planning a shot, a learner will learn how to save time when you're animating a character. So let's get going. The image plane, either it's a recording of yourself for a reference of animation, or it can be a part of the movie, or it can be a clip from a YouTube. It's very important to bring it next to the character you are animating. I have seen some animators who just play the video and they get a sense of the timing and the posing from there. But majority need some sort of reference next to the character that you are animating to follow it closely. So we are going to set up that. Okay, so let's get started with setting up the image plane setup. So here on my viewport, you can see there's already an image plane set up. So I'm just moving it aside or moving it out of the viewport. The very first thing you have to do before you start anything is to create a specific folder. That's a necessary requirement for, I don't know why, because it's just the project migration work easy with having this folder. So what you have to do first, go back to your content folder and create a new folder called movies. So if I click here, let's say it's creating a new folder, but I already have a movies folder created. So I'm going to follow that one. But when you're creating it for the first time, just rename this folder as a movies. So here is my movies folder. Inside there is JPG underscore sequence folder because it's my author. There is nothing in it. So it's not necessary to have this folder. So now on this image, I have this sequence here. So I'm going to open this one, and similarly I'm going to open all of these images and I'm dragging them all inside this. Okay, so here is the import part is done. So now inside our movies folder, and then there is a further folder that I created specifically for my image sequence. So all the images are sitting inside. Either you can save all here, so all your maps will be saved in Unreal asset file extension. So you can do that now or you can do it later. That's not a problem. So once these folders are imported, all these images are inside, right click on this and go to the media folder, and the first thing you will create is image media source. Image media source is actually taking all your image sequence file and storing in this source. So you can name it called demo underscore image media source. Okay, the next thing you have to do after that is to just open it. So it's open on my different screen here. I'm grabbing it here. There's nothing in this at the moment. But right here in the property setting, just click on these three dots and it will direct you to your movies folder that you just created and grabbed all the image sequences. Click on this one and open it. So just click on a first image and it will load the entire sequence in it. Save it and close it. Go back to your image sequence folder and the movies folder you created earlier. The next thing you have to do is go back to your media folder again and create a media player. So when you create a media player file, this message will pop up on your screen. Click on a video output media texture asset. By clicking on it, it will create a two nodes. So when I press OK, so I'll give it a name called demo underscore and enter. So two things are created here as soon as I finish my naming convention. Demo new media player, and parallelly it also created a media texture. So this media player is going to reference this image sequence and playing it as a texture and using it as a texture. So you can save all now. That means when you press a save all now, this is saving this one. You can see the small star icon here. That means this file is not saved yet. And if you press save all, it will save all the maps, the JPEG maps you previously imported in this folder. So when you say save selected, it will also save your the level and all the additional file. You have it open. So here now the level is saved, all your paths are saved as well. The last thing you have to do now in terms of the node creation is a material. Just simply create a new material, because this is a plane and you have to apply a material on the plane to see your image plane. So you can call it demo image plane mat. So that's a material I have, and you can save this one as well. Just double click on it and save it. Okay, so since this is open here, and as I said earlier, when you created the media player, it automatically created a media texture as well. So you can take your media texture in there and plug your base color into the RGB. As simple as that, and save it. So now your whole node network is completed. You started with the image media source. So this was the first thing you opened there. You picked the sequence path, and the next thing you did is you created a new media player using the option here from media player. As soon as you created it, will give you an option to check for the media source as well. So this media texture as well. So media texture created at the same time. And lastly, you created a material and you connected your media texture to that material. That part is done. So now how you use this sequence and apply on an image plane and also play on the sequence. So that's a part 2 now. I'm just closing this one, coming back to my sequence. Forget about this one. This is already a setup plane. So if you have, as in a previous one, I said it's better to create a level sequence whenever you're working with the image plane, because you have to use your timeline for that. So I have this sequence here. So in this sequence, what the first thing you have to do is, here you already have a media setup because this is done for this one. So if I just hide it, maybe I just mute it. So if I mute it, it's still showing. I don't know why. Oh, it's just muted because it's not playing, but it's still showing. So you can create a new media one. So since you're doing it the first time, there won't be any media track there. So go to the track. The last option I have here is a media track. Click on it, and there is a new media track created, but it's not associated with any image source at the moment. So see this plus sign here. I'll just call this media group name as a media. Where is the rename here? Here you go. So media demo image sequence, whichever name you prefer to call it. Okay, so now I will click on this plus sign and it will give me 2 options, media player and media source. I will prefer media source and call it, just type demo, and that with the demo name, it only showing the image media source that we created earlier. So I will click on it, and here is the timeline for this media source. So what is this new image media source? So this is the node that we created, the first one after importing the JPEG sequence. So the node is here. The next thing you have to do is right click on this one and go to the property, and here is your media source. Now the media texture. The media texture is here. This was your media texture that you created earlier. So go into this one, go back to the property again, in your media texture, type demo again, and that's where your media texture is. Click on it. So now your media texture is here. The last thing we have to do now is just applying this texture on a plane. So what I'm going to do now, I'll create a new plane here, plane. And since I know my the aspect ratio of my footage, like this one is here, I'll just expand my detail panel a little, and I'll rotate it 90 degree and set it up like 1.6. ratio 1.9. So I have this scale lock open, so it's not uniformly scaling everything. It's just scaling on a two particular axis. The axis 1.6 and 0.9. That's based on the aspect ratio. I have my image sequence exported. So here is my plane setup to apply the image plane. So I'll go back to where I saved my material, the last thing I created, and I apply on it. So here is my material applied. The only thing, it's coming in a vertical manner. It's very easy to fix it. So what you have to do now is just first thing, change it 0.9 in X and 1.6 in. Yeah, 1.6. I don't know why it's not taking that setting. 0.9. Maybe here. Yeah, perfect. And I'll just rotate it 90 degrees. So this angle, I'll just rotate 90. So here is my image plane setup, and it's playing as usual. You can set up, you can drag on a timeline to get the best footage, the frame you're looking for. I'll just minimize a little. Oh, sorry. Here you go. And this is my new image plane setup. Hello everyone, welcome back to this section of the tutorial. Here we're going to talk about the constraining. Constraining an object to a character hand or any part of the body, or constraining an object to object, or constraining can be related to a vehicle or a character sitting on horses. But here specifically, I'm going to talk about the two types of constraining. A constraining that a character holding something in a hand and his hand driving how the object will behave. And the second type of constraining is if an object, it seems like it's in the hand, but it's not the hand driving the object, it's opposite way. So here I'm scrolling through the timeline. Since you've seen in the previously, there was a javelin in the hand of my character. Now I added a sword as well. So you can see when I'm scrolling through, there's a movement on both of the object, depending on how my character's performance is. So there's a javelin is moving on the place, and also you see there is animation in the sword as well. So I'm going to create this character as a separate copy on the side. I'm making a copy of a sword and a javelin as well, and reconstraining it from scratch. All right, so here we have a character setup separate from the animated character we have on the right. Same way, we have a sword copied, we have a javelin copied as well, and the rig controls are active. So now we are going to start the constraining process. Before we start the constraining process, the two things I want to flag early on, if you are, since this video is, as I mentioned, is for beginner to intermediate learners, and if you are aware of MetaHuman control rig, there are switches to turn the FK controls into IK controls, and that sits inside the global control. So once you select the control rig by dropping the character into the sequencer here, then you see there is an option to switch to IK from FK. So when you select the global control and you select here and here you see your arm right FK IK switch and arm left IK switch is switched from FK to IK. So now the character has a IK controls, which is a more easy way when something is constrained. I personally prefer the IKs for animation. So that's the first thing. So second thing, we will be using few actors here, because we are not straightforward constraining this object to this IK or this object to this IK. There is two different methods doing that in terms of hierarchy, but the actor is common between these two. So we are going to create a blank actor here. So stay with me, and here is the actor 1. I'll just call it, sorry, I just zoom in here. I'll give it a name, sword actor. And the second one is I'm going to create a new one that's called javelin actor. Oops, I think oh yeah, here you go. And javelin actor. So, or maybe better, oh yeah, that's fine. So the sword actor is here, which is my first one. I'll turn off the animation mode for now and get back to the selection mode to select my actors easily. So this actor is to be snapped right here near the hand control. So I'll turn on the surface snapping on and a global transformation control, and I'll turn off the sequencer for now. Okay, and the first thing I'll do is this FK control to be snapped right here on the hand. Nearly there. Okay, I'll just roughly place it here, and the second actor that I created for a javelin, I'll place it to just under where my javelin is. Okay, right there. I'll turn on my sequencer again. I'll go into my shot in particular. So let's start with the constraining process now. So this sword is a very linear. This sword to be constrained to an actor that I placed here, and the actor to be constrained with the hand IK control. As simple as that. So start with the sword constraining first. I'll go into the animation mode again. My sword is already selected. I'll go right here at the bottom of the select tab and see there's a constrain option. Just click here and say you can do multiple type of constraining like translation, rotation, and scale, or a look at as well, but I prefer to go with the parent at this time. So I selected parent, and now my picker is active. It's not automatically selecting or automatically constraining, because we have to give this information to the constraint where this sword is supposed to be constrained. So here I'm picking pick sword actor, and it's picked. As soon as it's picked, you see there's a key. We got a key on the position where it's constrained. So the problem is that it will be constrained from here onwards moving forward, but not behind it. So we can move this key at the very beginning of the shot. So this will stay constrained throughout. Option 1. Then secondly, now we have an actor that need to constrain with the hand IK controls. Okay, so how to do that? I'll just delete it. There was already a constraint here which I deleted now. The second thing we have to do, I have to go back into the select, or maybe I'll just select my character here. Give me a more second. So this is my character. I'll select the body rig, especially the control rig, and I'll select my actor from the outliner. So the actor will be, where is my sword actor? I'll just type sword instead of finding an actor. So here's my sword actor where I constrain my sword. I'll see if there's nothing constrained here. Same way that the way we did the sword, I'll click here, select the parent, and I'll pick hand right IK control. Okay, so now let's see if it's constrained or not. I'll select this control, and if I move, see the sword is moving with the hand. So that's a constraining type 1. Now whatever key I'm going to put on this character, the sword and this actor is going to stay all the time here. Coming on to the second one, which is a little bit complicated, but not that much. Now I want my javelin resting all the time on that tip, and if I move my hand on either side, it will drag on the surface that I don't want. I don't want it to be sharply sitting on that rock surface here. So the process is slightly different here. What I'm going to do now, my actor is where I'm going to put all my animation. And this javelin will be constrained to an actor, and this IK hand control will be constrained to an actor. So the first thing what I'll do now, I'll do in 2 stages. Very first thing, I'll select javelin here. So this is my javelin actor and this is my javelin. Going back to the select mode, I'll select my javelin. I can go to the very first frame of this shot. We'll select the javelin and we'll go into the animation mode. Okay, and I'll constrain this same way as I did for the sword. Javelin selected, actor selected, actor picked, and here you go. So now my javelin is connected to the actor at the base, so I can move it freely. The reason for connecting there and putting this actor right here and the pivot as well, because I want my animation to be working like that. Okay, so now my hand animation. Very first thing, before I constrain my hand, I have to pose my hand properly as per the javelin. So how to do that? As simple as we usually animate the characters. So let's see, I select the meta human control rig. I select my hand control. I just roughly place it here. Okay, so that's a basic pose. Now I have my javelin connected to the actor. Now the hand controls to be connected as well. So I'm going to select my IK control of the hand, going into the constraint. I'm having my actor visible same way the way I did the javelin with the actor. So I'm selecting the parent control and picking the javelin. So here you go, everything is done. I'm going to select mode again, and if I move my javelin anywhere, the hand is going to move with the actor as well. So any rotation, anything, it looks like the hand is doing that, but ultimately this is the way to keep it here. So if I move it, that's fine, you can move it. Sorry, my surface snapping should be turned off. I can move it freely anywhere and the hand will stay with it, or I can rotate as well. So these are the 2 type of constraining. Very quickly I explained the one with the hand control, from hand control to actor and actor driving the sword. Here it's a bit of a combination of both. There is an actor who's driving the javelin separately and a hand is also connected to the same. So the animation is going to apply here. So the whole point is, if you are planning to do some constraining, so plan ahead, then wasting some time and putting key, and then you feel like this is not what you're looking for, and then you keying every frame to make it work again. Because let's say if you move the javelin and hand is not moving, then you're moving the hand to fit the javelin again. This is the process of a constraining 2 type. There's a various other method as well, but generally this is how it works. So it's the same way it's done on this character, and see how it's behaving, you know. So I'm going to select my camera angle again to see how it's working. So here you can see in my camera animation, javelin is moving. The sword is not much visible in this frame, but I'll just turn this camera off and see, here is my sword movement as well. Okay, so that was a constraining and image plane setup. The third thing we are moving now is the cleaner workflow, the cleaner viewport placing and all. I hope you enjoyed this section. Let's move to the next one. Best use of your workspace for animating a character. In this topic, we are going to utilize the maximum of our screen space and arranging our windows in such a way so we are keeping most of our focus on animating the character without being distracted by multiple pop-up windows or in accessing the sequencer and a sequencer's curve. So there is one type of arrangement we usually see when we start animating a character. When we have our character blueprint loaded in a level and we have our image plane set up, so the next thing we start working with the sequencer. So if I launch a sequencer here, it's nowhere coming on the screen. When I'm saying nowhere coming on the screen, it's the first screen, it's the only screen that's shared at the moment. It's on the other screen, so I have to steer back and forth on the sequencer if I'm updating something. So what I have to do, I have to bring this sequencer back here. Okay, then I start working on that in case if I need a sequencer curve as well. It's opening up here, and if I go inside the shot, you see here, if I select the window, then animation pop up. So this is not a very cleaner, this is a very messy workspace, and that reduces your productivity and consume a lot of time to get the desired result you're looking for. So now what I'm telling you is how to arrange this workspace in a better way and what is important for animating a character. So first thing first, I go back to the select mode and a sequencer window. For now I will close the sequencer curve. And the sequencer window that was floating, the first thing what you have to do is drag this window by holding the left mouse click from, and then you see it's showing some suggestion on the screen what part of the screen you want to put it. So I would recommend to put it at the bottom of it. So now it's docked to the bottom part of the screen. The second thing is splitting this display. It's very important since you have set up your camera and you have a lot of negative space here that you don't need. You just need your animation reference and your character. But it's very important to keep checking how the whole animation and the performance looking like through the camera view. So better to split it. And by splitting it into two, I just click here. Why it's split into two? Because from here I set up an option when the viewport, it was just one viewport. Here you see there's a 3 line here. I went to the layout right there, the second last from the bottom. See, there's a 2 pens side by side, so I selected 2 pens instead of 3, or instead of a vertical one. I decided to use, the horizontal one. I decided to use the vertical one. So that's my 2 pen, and the 2 pens, when I click here on the one side, it's still not a camera view, but you can change it to camera view. So I go here in the perspective, and I'd select my camera view as a cine camera angle. So this is now a camera view. If I'm working on this part, this section, or this viewport, it's not going to change anything here in terms of the viewport movement. This is your camera angle and gonna stay as it is. So that's very good use of watching your character through the camera and animating. The third thing is, if you animating this guy here and then you're selecting your control curves, it automatically open the animation mode window, where since you did your constraining, if you have your poses, then poses will be mostly used. Otherwise, some snapping and all, they're not the option you frequently use when you're starting straight away. So I would say you can drag it and give it a very little space instead of completely closing it. Then the next thing is you can keep your outliner up instead of controls, because you can, if you want to select your controls all from the viewport, you can switch to the outliner, or you can stay with the animation outliner. Usually if you see your level are showing up here, and level is something you're not loading sub level every now and then, because to keep focus on animation you don't want to load a whole lot of thing. So I would say levels are not that important. You can still stick to the details view, and you can even move it slightly bit to the left by holding it right on the edge of it. Okay, so that's a basic layout. I usually prefer giving it a maximum space to the character on the screen, giving it more control to select the controls. Okay, now this is the one part of arranging the window. The second part is how you can keep your sequencer clean. There's a very good option. It's recently introduced in Unreal 5.5. You have a lot more control here. But here are a few very important things that are available. Since you are animating a character and you want to match the animation with your image plane reference or your acting reference. So when you select, it's selecting the whole lot of keys, and then you go into the sequencer. So sequencer is now opening at the base of it. So I would recommend you can put the sequencer curves right next to your sequencer here. So you can switch the tabs back and forth whenever needed. So here you can see I have my head controls on. In the sequencer it's showing the same one. The best option is, I would say, if you click on this three dot inside the sequencer and select the fourth last option here, selected control, rig controls. If you click on that, it's only showing the control that you're selecting in a viewport. So for example, I selected this elbow control or this body control or the spline controls or the head controls. It's just showing only the one that's selected, or an IK controls. So that means you're not seeing other keys, and this is going to be same replica in the sequencer curve. So you can adjust your curve here. For example, here if I scroll through the timeline a little, so see my reference is rotating ahead earlier than here. So I'll just select this one, the head control, and I know where the curve is. So from here, instead of getting this turn from here, I would start from this point onwards. So I'll select a control like this one, or I'll rotate it. So see, here I'm just specifically working on a head control and a specific curve, and it's not loading everything else for me. As you can see here, just a blueprint of my metahuman. Similarly, there are a lot more options. You can see all your track that's animated. You can uncheck it first to see it fully. You can just load the cameras in case if you want to change the camera and you can't find in this whole in this long list. So you see here, I'm just moving it up. So see, there's a media track, there's a couple of actors, there's some static objects, and 2-3 metahuman, and a camera is right here. And it took a lot of time for you to identify where my camera is, although you can find with the icons. But still, in this option, if you select just the camera, it's showing only the camera and the controls. Similar way you can do with the lighting. So now camera and the lights are on as well, since I'm animating or adjusting some of my light controls inside this shot. So that's pretty much from this one, at the best use of using the workspace. Thank you.